I really don't know how anyone can take me serious right now, but there it is. We're environmentally friendly. We repurpose and reuse things. Woo. Woo. Woo.
Let's stir it up. I'm going with Northern Iowa. I'm looking for the Bison to cover the Dogs.
Where's the bell? I think I'm a bad mix between Tom Landry and Ric Flair right now. I'm kind of a prop mess.
I can't even look at you. I'm going to have to look this way, actually, to talk to you.
This is going to be a total surprise for me. Like you, the fans, I'm going to see this when this video blog runs, so I hope it's good.
Good morning, everybody. From Frisco, Texas, we're live. It's the Bison Media Blog Pregame Show. The final one of the season as North Dakota State goes for a fourth consecutive FCS championship, facing a conference rival in Illinois State. It is cold, but the tailgaters are here, and so are my best friends on TV. One, Eric Peterson, Fargo Big E, and Jeff Kolpack. We're here again, Jeffrey. The Bison going for history today.
You know, I feel like I've been talking about this game for 3 weeks. Well, we have been talking about this game for 3 weeks. That's right. It's for the Missouri Valley Conference title. And actually, look at the T-shirts that the Valley's been holding up around.
This is our first Missouri Valley Football Conference sponsored prop. Or not sponsored. Pappy Viverito really wanted to get
the commish gave these out.
These are commish-issued T-shirts, so we're really stepping up today, Dom.
All right, Big E, you called it a ladder match. You thought you should have the belt up on the middle of the field. Let's get down to this here as we start off. Patty Viverito actually will join us later in today's show. Illinois State is loaded. They've got some tremendous players. We've talked about them, as Kolpack said, for the last 3 weeks. But this is their first time in this venue. How much do you think that's going to be a factor, if at all, today?
Well, give me 1 second, Dom. I do have something here.
You're going to start already with a prop? We just started the show. Well, it is the final of the season, so there it is.
You did call the ladder match, Dom, so we got to see what we're playing for right now. Let's get that out to begin with. I think maybe the big game atmosphere might be something early on for Illinois State, but once they settle in after a possession or two, you know, that'll change it. And there's going to be some NDSU players new to this game.
Yeah.
Guys like Nate Tangway, RJ Yerzendowski, true freshmen. So NDSU does have veterans who have been here before, but they'll have some guys who will have to see how they perform on this stage as well.
The Bison, though, experience is huge in this game. Obviously, you look at Kyle Emanuel and Christian Dudzik, who's never missed a game. That has to be a huge factor as well.
You know, you can just point to our friends at Six Flags Tailgating here. They have the Kansas game on perpetual loop here. They've had it ever since the replay was taped.
Happened, yeah.
So, the camera could probably zoom in on it. The point being, Christian Dudzik played in that game.
Yeah.
Kyle Emanuel played in that game. They have so many guys who have played in so many big games that this is just really another big stage for them. And you're right. I think it might be evident early, but once the game gets going, once after the first quarter is done, then we'll find out really who the better team is.
Carson Wentz will make his first start, obviously, in a championship game. He told me on Thursday he equates this to Iowa State. He feels the nerves are going to be the same, and if he plays like he did at Iowa State, the Bison will be hard to beat today.
I think when Carson Wentz has been off this year, he's been off early and he's been high with his throws. Yep. Almost have to take a little step back, Carson, and take a deep breath, and try to get into that groove earlier. So, look, that's a good point. I mean, if he's on point right away, you'll know it because his throws will be low and they'll be crisp.
You mentioned last night on Fargo to Frisco how important Illinois State's front seven is going to have to be today, because if John Crockett goes, I think, for 120 to 150, I think the Bison win.
Yeah, Pat Meehan, the middle linebacker, leads them in tackles with over 100. Teddy Corwin, their big defensive end, leads them in sacks. Yep. Those guys are going to have to be physical up front at the point of attack. They can't get John Crockett going, and for that matter, King Fraser, if he gets sprinkled in there. The other thing I'm looking for in these championship games, how early to one of these coaches throws in a wrinkle. Whether it's a reverse pass, maybe a play that no one's seen before, a certain type of misdirection run. Who's going to throw the first wrinkle in this game is one thing I'm going to look for.
That's a good point. We haven't seen that from NDSU really this year at all. We haven't seen a fake punt.
Not since the Western Illinois game, since the halfback option. That's the last one I can think of.
And that's about it, really. And is that a wrinkle? I mean, that's a basic play, the halfback pass to Carson Wentz. But we haven't seen the fake field goal.
Yeah.
They have showed nothing in the way of any razzle-dazzle, any trickery at all this season.
It's
Well,
ironic you
they
say
did
that, though,
try. I
you
think it
know.
was the Coastal Carolina
Yeah.
game. They tried the halfback pass. It wasn't there. Crockett
snuck it
ran.
out.
Then they were going to do the jump pass. It wasn't there, and Crockett ran. So that was a game where they did pull out some wrinkles, but they didn't really develop.
It's ironic you say that, though, because in 2 of the championship games, they have done that, though. You remember the Crockett jump pass to Kevin Bottolin in the 2013 game, and then the year before that was the crazy play with Voigtlander on the fake punt that went for a huge game.
And that was a big game-changing play, too. So, you can talk about these defenses all you want. You can talk about, Marshawn Copperidge and John Crockett. But will it really come down to something like that?
Well, do you look at 2 of NDSU's 3 championships? The first one, NDSU swing play, was the fake punt.
Yeah.
Last year was the blocked field goal
Yeah.
that really got him going, the big return that set up a touchdown. So 2 out of the 3 years, you could argue special teams is what turned the tide for NDSU.
Let's talk about defense for NDSU. Obviously, this will be the 4th game they're playing without Travis Beck. They had to face Zach Center. They had to face D'Angelo Henderson. They had to face some really impressive wide receivers and a good quarterback in Jared Johnson at Sam Houston State. I think they may have a bigger challenge today with Roberson and Copperidge without Beck in the middle.
Yeah, that question was posed to Mike Hardy earlier in the week, and he almost laughed. He goes, every week it's just somebody a little bit better and a little bit stronger and a little bit quicker, and that's what you're going to have with Trey Roberson. He's the key. I mean, in big games, the quarterback is really the biggest deal. If the quarterback is on, you have so much better chance of winning. Brock Jensen has played so well on this
MVP
game.
twice in this game.
Has played so well in all 3 games, really. Carson Wentz, this is his first time. He's shown the ability. He's calm, he's cool, he's collected. We found that out in the second-round playoff game when he drove his team 76 yards in under 3 minutes.
DeLuca, though, Big E, has turned into what NDSU had hoped for. I mean, he is on the verge of becoming a very, very good player.
I mean, he's learning on the job, and you can tell each week he's getting a little more comfortable. For a guy 6'3", 240 pounds, you can drop 25, 30 yards downfield in the pass coverage, intercept the ball, and return it the other way and look like, Andrew Bonnet flying up the field. It's pretty impressive athleticism, but maybe this game is going to come down to a non-primary player, like maybe R.J. Jerzendowski, a Nick DeLuca for NDSU. I'm sure Illinois State has the cast of characters. Maybe it isn't going to be the stars on each team who make the plays that make the difference.
You want Bonnet to make a play. You've been calling that all year.
As have I. I called Beck for the longest time, and now that can't happen.
Well,
so I need one
Max Williams had the double hurdle mode for his touchdown. Maybe Bonnet's got to go for 3. The triple jump hurdle mode for a touchdown.
I say the numbers 57 and 3 to you. What comes to mind?
What comes to mind is unbelievable. That's what comes to mind. This senior class can end their careers with more titles than losses, which,
that's unbelievable.
I mean, I'm stumped. I don't know how else to describe it.
And we look back at this run in 2011, the first game that season against Lafayette, and they were coming off the loss at Eastern Washington, and they started to build some momentum, and they lost that year to Youngstown. That maybe woke them up, and I think it was very similar again. And we were there at Cedar Falls that day, and that was the most open comments that they've had that Chris Kleiman said after the game. The burden is off after the winning streak, and Jeff, they've played like it. They've challenged, but they've still won.
I go back to almost Al McGuire type of thing. Al McGuire, the great basketball coach, said before the tournaments, he actually liked his team to lose a game because he said it got their attention back. They listen better. They pay more attention to details. And maybe that's what you saw. I mean, they say the right things, and it's great leadership, but maybe, that little shot of invincibility is gone. And Carson Wentz said that actually in the press conference yesterday that, when you feel like you're invincible, that's a bad thing.
They also mentioned Dynasty yesterday. You brought out Dynasty mode shirts, which I know everybody wanted last year. A win today, is this a dynasty? Or is it already won?
It probably is already won, but this would take it to a new level. It would be an unprecedented thing in the FCS to win 4 consecutive national championships. 4 consecutive title games, at least 3 titles, and if they win today a 4th, I think that's a dynasty regardless. And they're going to be, 57-4 or 58-3 coming out of this game, this senior class. So if that's not a dynasty, what is?
Who knows?
61-0?
Yeah, right?
I mean, that's pretty good.
You talked, as did I, with Trey Roberson, the Illinois State quarterback. I want to talk about him for a little bit here as we roll on our Media Blog Pregame Show. We're live here in Frisco on WDAY's Extra and WDAY.com. 67% completion percentage, 866 yards, and 6 touchdowns with no picks in the playoffs. He has been Superman.
Yeah, they say he wears a Superman T-shirt under his pads, and it's been like that, and that's how he's going to have to play today. I think both the quarterback who protects the ball more, who makes less mistakes, I think that's the team that's going to win, along with who wins the physical battle up front. The time of possession, which we always talk about, I think that's going to be key because a guy like Trey Roberson, if you keep him off the field, he can't make as many plays. You keep their offense off the field, they can't get into a rhythm, and you can't get Koprich and Roberson going like they can.
Brock's back is kind of dwindled down his transfers. He got a really good one in this guy.
Well, I think we noticed that 3 or 4 years ago when they brought in like 8, 9, 10 guys a year from the transfer route. I think now it's down to, 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But he has a really good 2 or 3. Talk about Roberson coming from Indiana. I think David Perkins coming from Ohio State's really been one of those outside guys, those defensive end type linebackers that really makes a difference. This is a good defensive game. I got it low scoring. I won't tell you just yet.
Yeah, don't give it away just yet.
I think it's going to be a low scoring game. The weather is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a factor.
It's not
the wind,
windy.
Yeah, the wind is down. Temperature is, it's nice. Actually, it's nice out here as we sit.
It's not bad. That's thanks to the wind. All right, I know you've got plenty to do to get ready for your final prop of the season. So we'll excuse you for a little bit because we've got a big-time guest coming on, okay?
All right, well, I'll get out of your way, Dom.
The one and only Fargo Big E. We've talked about it all season long, it seems like, on every show that we do about what the Missouri Valley needed to do this season, and they've come through in spades, Jeff. Getting 5 teams into the postseason and then getting those teams to win. You laughed at me about getting 5 teams into the playoffs. I'm not here to toot my own horn, but boy, what a season it's been.
I knew you were going to bring that up somehow. I just knew you were going to try to rub that in a little bit. But you're right. They deserve 5 teams. And actually, I think they deserve almost 6, if you will.
Could have.
It's going to be interesting. When you talk about teams that are proving themselves, NDSU has done it, but Illinois, you're waiting for that other team to take the next step in the Valley.
Yep.
NDSU's done it. Okay, who is going to be that next team? Northern Iowa, South Dakota State. They certainly were capable, but it's Illinois State, and they did it because they're able to play at a physical level that matches North Dakota State.
If there's one person that'll be more happy than anybody today, it's our next guest who sits to our right. That's the commissioner of the Missouri Valley, Patty Viverito. Good morning to you. Thanks for giving us a few minutes. I noticed, by the way, this is the most neutral colors possible that you could be wearing.
I've been in gray all weekend.
How big a day is this? Obviously, you already gave us the shirts about touting this, the one true champion. As we display this, I mean, this has got to be a dream come true today.
It really is. But when you think of how this season's gone, from the very get-go, you win a couple of FBS games, basically an unblemished non-conference record, 5 teams in the playoff, they all win. Like, how else were we going to end this season except with our championship game? Not the national championship, the Missouri Valley Football Conference championship.
You were on our show to start the season, so it's only fitting that you're on to finish the show. But in this league, what are the other commissioners telling you? I know you said you're trying to, be a little guarded with the obnoxiousness a little bit, but
they've been very, very gracious. I got a really cute note from Tom Burnett when I checked into the hotel with a nice gift basket, and it said, "Welcome again. I'm jealous again." So there's a little bit of, gosh, you guys again. But it's with respect and with really good feelings.
Now, with the odd number of teams in the league, obviously one team is going to miss another, and we had talked about it. And Brock's back every week on the conference call, and I said this to Jeff. He was kind of hinting at it. He'd love to see this game somewhere down the road. Were you thinking the same thing, that, boy, it'd be fun if these 2 teams were to play one another somewhere?
I not when we first met early in the season, but when it got to the playoffs and I saw the bracket, you couldn't help but, say, hey, we've got at that time Northern Iowa and Illinois State on the opposite side of the bracket. Right. Like, I could see this. I wasn't sure if it was going to be Illinois State or Northern Iowa that would prevail, but they had an awfully tough road to get here. Really proud that they did what they did. I went to that game in Eastern Washington. And it was amazing, and Mike Kern went to the game up at New Hampshire, and it was equally amazing. It's well deserved, and if anybody should have a crack at the 3-time national champs, it ought to be one of our teams.
You know, Brock Spack said it publicly earlier this week that he was worried. He goes, I heard rumors that they would stick us on the same side of the bracket. I guess that means the playoff committee. Were you worried about stuff like that? Like most of the Valley teams being on one side of the bracket, so they don't have this matchup?
Well, one of the disadvantages of having 5 teams is that there aren't enough quadrants in the bracket to separate us. So you can't complain if we have some teams that have to play each other. The really unfortunate matchup was that first round game when South Dakota State had to go in and play you. I felt bad because geography was dictating that was going to be the matchup. That's an awfully tough draw. I felt bad for the Jackrabbits.
But actually, I mean, that's an NCAA thing, though. It's just not this sport, right?
Right.
I think the basketball tournament's the only one that really doesn't worry about geography. So I get that, but you get used to it, right? And with the regionalization.
Exactly. The regionalization is what it's going to be, and the Dakotas are always going to be sort of out there, somewhat separated, and we're likely to see those kind of matchups early. As long as we've got this playoff system the way it's set up, and really can't complain because it's the same for everybody.
Right. 57-3 NDSU is over the last 4 years heading into today. What goes through your mind when I say those numbers?
Dynasty. I mean, what else do you call it? It's incredible. I think that the rest of FCS saw that 27 seniors graduated. It's like, thank God. Maybe somebody else has a shot. Sorry.
It's a lot of work, though, being the commissioner of a league that's so successful, isn't it?
No. No. It's all fun every day.
Illinois State, we asked you about this yesterday. They were picked 6th in the league. I don't know, Jeff and I, and a majority of the media that covers it, never saw this coming. I know you had a chance to watch them a couple times. Did you even in your wildest dreams say, you know what, they've got the stuff to make a run like this?
I mean, I know it sounds a little trite, but they got better every week.
Yeah.
Early on, when I saw them, they didn't look like a team that was going to finish 6th, but they didn't look like a team necessarily that was going to finish for the national championship title being played. They just got better every week.
I know in one of your state of addresses that you do before the football season that you are hoping that these teams and your Valley teams play tougher non-conference schedules like the Eastern Washingtons, the Montanas. Are you happy with that direction?
Absolutely. I mean, they have really stepped it up. Every team. Proud of them.
ESPN is here again today for NDSU. They start the season next season at Montana with the FCS kickoff game on ESPN2. The exposure for this league, what can that lead to down the road? How many big gains can this have, especially with an all-Valley matchup today?
I would hope that it raises the consciousness to the point where there's a lot more interest in every single one of our 10 communities. I think that's the start, and I think that should translate to even more interest from ESPN, and we're in conversations with them. We want to be on all the time.
Any expansion in the plans? I know.
Next question.
No.
Nothing. 10. You like 10. That's a good number.
It seems to be working,
The other hot topic, too, because the Southland, I know, next year is going to start playing 9 conference games and going down to 2 non-conference. Have you thought about that so everybody plays everybody? And we don't have this happening today.
We've talked about that on a couple of occasions. It's really tough to schedule non-conference. But any athletic director that's ever sat on the selection committee has warned us not to do that because you limit who you can play non-conference and how you can demonstrate to the committee, how good you are. It was our non-conference wins that put us in a position this year to get 5 teams and to be where we are. So I'd be very cautious about that, and you can't argue with this year's outcome.
I don't think no FBS team is going to line up to play the Bison anymore. That's unfortunate.
Well, look at Iowa will play Illinois State and NDSU over the next 2 years. So good luck for the Hawkeyes. That's the next 2.
There's some serious photobombing going on, by the way.
No doubt about that. Now, you said to us yesterday, in past years, you've made your way down to the Bison sideline. What is your itinerary today when the game begins?
Oh, I'm upstairs. I don't think I can be seen on the sideline. I guess I could stand in the end zone.
Yeah.
No, I think I'll be spending the game upstairs.
Is this a day where the entire office is here, your conference office is here, or what kind of for your staff?
Such that it is. We have a pretty small staff. But, yes, Mike Kern is here. Greg Walter is here. And I think all 3 of us will be in Montana next year for the opener because that's a big darn deal.
Yes.
I'm going to call it right now. ESPN Game Day, Montana, NDSU.
Wow,
why not?
Going to happen again?
Maybe.
All right.
Well, I don't. They they might not have a game day before the season starts.
Jeff's saying they'll bring it with the Bison, I guess.
Why not start it early? Yeah, they love the Bison.
I'll see if I can't work on that.
Thank you so much for stopping by. Enjoy the day. I know it's going to be a fun one for you.
I'm going to have a fun time today.
Thanks, Patty.
Just hope it's a great game because these two teams deserve to play their best.
Thanks for doing this.
Thanks.
That's Patty Viverito, the commissioner of the Missouri Valley Football Conference. A big day for her, obviously, Jeffrey, and this league. 5 teams in, and now to have 2 in the championship. I thought that was interesting what she said about the selection committee saying to avoid playing everybody, because I think there are some fans that say, boy, it's disappointing that NDSU and Illinois State didn't play. What do you think about that if everybody plays everybody in the Valley, they play 9 conference games?
No, I like it the way it is because I like those non-conference games. You need the room to go out to Montana. You need to schedule some games with other leagues.
And an FBS, if you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I know NDSU doesn't have an FBS game in the next few years, but some of these programs, they need that game for the money. And so you got to give them the room in the schedule to make that game.
I want to go back in time. The last time the Bison played a conference opponent in the championship game was 1986.
Yeah.
When NDSU played South Dakota. The Bison dusted the Coyotes that day 27-7. What do you remember about that game and how they said they never were going to let that happen again in the old days, right?
Does this mean I'm a little old because I remember that game? But, yeah, Florence, Alabama, Division II title game. It was they played during the regular season, though, and that's the one difference. And in the title game, NDSU with Tyrone Braxton, I remember, made a big play. You had Jeff Bentram, Chad Stark. I mean, that was a cast. You talk about recruiting classes. I mean, that 83 Bison recruiting class will certainly rival this recruiting class.
Yeah, I was about to
these
say,
seniors.
yeah, the 2010 one. Granted, we saw some of the guys who've already graduated, like Billy Turner and Ryan Smith yesterday. Grant Olson's on the staff. And then you look at the guys that redshirted that are playing here today, and we mentioned as Big E rejoins us. That 2011 team, Big E, had 4 redshirt freshmen that played. Travis Beck, Kyle Emanuel, Christian Dudzik, and who am I forgetting? Carl Littlejohn.
Yes.
I mean, and they're all studs, and they're all be out there, obviously, with the exception of Beck today.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a decade ago when that game happened. They came down here. It was new and fresh. You didn't know what to expect. Who's the Sam Houston State team? And that's when guys like Travis Beck kind of we know during that season he was an emerging player.
He was good, yeah.
But that put a signature on his freshman season. That interception and return down to where he tried to vault himself into the end zone.
Hurdle mode.
Yeah, hurdle mode. That's like long jump mode. But that was his introduction to FCS football or the FCS football world at large. And, I guess kind of a shame that he's unable to play today because of the injury. But, you're seeing a little bit of that on this year's team. You got Nate Tangway, a redshirt freshman, R.J. Yerzandowski, a true freshman, Trey Dempsey. So to keep a program rolling and to get to 4 championship games, you have to be blending in those younger guys because when big groups of seniors graduate, you need underclassmen that are ready to step in the next year. We were at the Pep Fest last night. I want to touch about that briefly here before we get to our prediction segment. It was loud, obviously, as we did Fargo to Frisco as we were videotaping that at the same time, but it was electric. And I thought the really cool part, bringing back the former players to talk, and I know the crowd went nuts for that. Yeah, and it was kind of a nice setup indoors. It was key because of the weather. They had video boards, had some nice highlight packages. I kind of wondered, how many people would come to this Pep Fest thing a 4th year in a row, and, would there be 5,000, 6,000? I guess I was wrong. 8,000 people. Very loud, very into it, and you always seem to be amazed by the lengths the fan base goes. It's like, all right, this is pretty good, but it's going to plateau, it's going to level off, and to this point, it just seems like it hasn't. There were more fans there than most Valley teams draw for a football game. Absolutely. Which is crazy. Yeah. And, you talk about programs, about 150 former players coming back. Yeah, that's awesome. Crazy. Yeah. We saw it yesterday in practice. Yeah. There was probably, 200-300 people milling around here while the Bison were practicing. Illinois State took to the field an hour later. There was nobody. Not even a former player around. Well, not only the number of players, Craig Dahl, San Francisco 49ers, Joe Mays, Kansas City Chiefs, Billy Turner, Miami Dolphins, Marcus Williams, New York Jets. How many programs? Ryan Smith. Ryan Smith. CFL. Sam O'Jury, you got 2 CFL players. How many programs at this level? There's programs that have those type of players, but not only have them at the same time and then get them back to show support to the same team. It reminds me of the University of Miami, the U. Ooh, your favorite. When everyone used to come back to the sidelines. So maybe there's a U dynasty. Really, you think so? Yeah. Wow. Now,
before we get into our predictions, that's my favorite part of this whole trip. It has been over the last 3 years when the former players come back. It's fantastic to see the guys from the 60s connect with this current team. It really is cool.
Pretty touching.
Yeah,
I know you
really
talk to
is.
like Tyler Rowe or some of these assistant coaches. I mean, they almost start choking up when they talk about it. Yesterday in the post-practice press conference, that's what Colton Hegel said. He goes, I think one of my favorite parts of the week is when those former players come back for that Friday practice.
Well, the other thing, too, that I found interesting, we're interviewing Joe Mays after all that happened, and I'm like, do you feel like you laid the foundation for this Division I success? Because he was part of the transition, those 10-1 teams, and he's like, it happened long before I came here, and he talked about the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and how the success in Division II even was the foundation for what happened when they went to Division I.
And who was the last one to leave? Joe Mays. Does that say something about that guy?
I thought it was interesting, too, and you got a great photo of this, of him talking with Carlton. Little Johnny had never met Carlton, but they play the same position. He had immense respect for him, and I thought that was just a connection there between the past and the present.
Well, not only him, it seemed like he was surrounded by a lot of defensive players. Some offensive players came up to him.
Their eyes were wide,
but I saw Kyle Emanuel, I saw Carlton Littlejohn at one point, and I believe Colton Hegel, and they're just there kind of, and Brian Schatz was there, they're kind of picking each other's brains, and you could just see the faces lit up of the current players because they're having fun in that moment.
All right, Big E, I'm going to get my prediction out of the way because I know you two have something ridiculous planned. Illinois State's offense has been outstanding this year. The least amount of points they've scored in a game, gentlemen, is 21. I think the Bison will limit that by 1 point. I think they'll give up 20 today, but I think the NDSU running attack, you talked about this with me on Thursday. I think John Crockett, the Bison offensive line, Jeff, which was a massive question mark we talked way back in March about, is playing the best it has all season long. I think they push around that Illinois State defensive line. I have the Bison winning a 4th consecutive championship. I have it 27-20 over Illinois State. All right, the stage is yours.
All right, Dom, we need some help here. Obviously, this is for the belt.
The belt is back.
We're not going to hang it up over midfield because there's nothing to hang it on. But, Dom, I need some mic help because,
all right, of course.
Like I said before, to understand the future or the present, we must look at the past.
Yes, okay. Another prop. We need his own assistant.
You got to work on your transitions.
He needs his own.
Wow,
we are going back.
Where NDSU started in beast mode. My props were very arcane, low budget. So they survived beast mode.
Okay. That was stage 1. That was 2012. Yes?
Stage 2, FBS mode. You know, 5 consecutive wins against FBS schools. This senior class has won 4 FBS games.
That was 2013.
That one's gone.
Next.
So last year,
yes, the very popular.
Last year we hit dynasty mode. Yep. 3 in a row. I think that constitutes a dynasty. We got dynasty mode.
That's a hot topic.
Where do you go? Where do you go after dynasty mode? One more step.
Hey, we only have an hour here.
I know it.
Quad mode.
Wow.
The switch looks like it may be on. But I think NDSU has enough with their defense to pull it out. 24-20. They win by 4 points, a 4th consecutive national title. There's quad mode, Dom.
He never disappoints, including a new shirt and a new hashtag, apparently, for quad mode. There it is with Big E and his prediction. He's got 24-20. All right, the stage is yours.
I've been wearing this all week.
Oh, it's back.
Time to get the hat.
Finally. We've been waiting for it.
You know where he gets all those ridiculous T-shirts? Tell you what, I got a visual presentation for my pick. This is one Eric Peterson's senior picture.
Oh, my God.
Notice the nice Bart Simpson T-shirt, stonewashed jeans. It started early at Climax High School.
Oh, that's terrific.
That stonewash is in style back there.
You know, the last time NDSU had a player of magnitude at defensive end was this guy, Phil Hansen, when he was running. And Phil Hansen led him to a national title in 1990, and of course he had a great career. So on that note, I think it's going to be a defensive battle. I'm looking at 17-10 NDSU. I think it's going to be a slobber knocker, and this guy is going to make the difference. Kyle Emanuel. He's going to do the Phil Hansen mode from 1990 and make the play of the game and make the difference.
Another sack. He sets the all-time record for NDSU. This is fantastic. We might have to hang this up, Big E. Yeah. This might have to go in the studio. I love it.
Yeah, I was a big Hoyas fan back in the day. Patrick Ewing, Kembe Mutombo, Alonzo Mourning.
Senior picture, Bart Simpson.
It was one of 4 poses. That was not the formal pose, okay? Oh, let's see your senior picture.
We'll dig that up. Well, that's a great way to end our final
probably
show.
Didn't even take senior pictures when Kolpack was in high school.
I think it's oil paintings, probably.
Seriously, boys, it's been a pleasure this year.
Absolutely, it's been fantastic. We want to thank Six Flags Tailgating. They hosted us, I can't remember, 3 to 4 times this season. We got a great crowd around watching us. We appreciate everybody watching today. Kolpack and Izzo radio show starts in a half an hour. We'll be inside the stadium. We're video streaming that as well. We got some great guests lined up from 9 to 11. We'll also join you for the live blog at 11 a.m. and back post-game as NDSU goes for history today against Illinois State. For Eric Peterson and Jeff Kolpack, I'm Dom Izzo. Thanks, everybody, for watching.